Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to SUSE Manager. The journey continues. The roadmap session for SUSECon 2023 for SUSE Manager. I'm Stacy Miller. I'm the product marketing manager for SUSE Manager, and with me I have,
Don Vosberg, the product manager for SUSE Manager, and I'm based in Indiana, USA.
and I'm based in Austin, Texas. So let's talk about what we're going to cover in this session. This session will tell you what is SUSE Manager. We're going to talk about why you should care and why you need a management tool. Then we're going to jump into what's special about this new release of SUSE Manager. We'll talk about some new SUSE Manager and SUSE Global Services packages that will really get you best practices for your company. John will share what's on the horizon for SUSE Manager, and then we'll end with some customer stories and some references. So I'm going to hand it over to Don now to talk about what is SUSE Manager.
Thank you, Stacy. SUSE Manager is an important part of the SUSE product portfolio. We align in the business critical unit for SUSE, and our role is to help manage the Linux portfolio that customers have, regardless of where it is and how big it is, and handle all the complexity of that, offering simplicity and function within that, and not just SUSE Linux, but any other Linux, as you know, and to secure the operation of those of any mission critical workloads, which if it's running on your system, it's mission critical,
Of
right?
course it is.
That's the definition. So what is SUSE Manager? So SUSE Manager is made up of a number of open source projects that come together to deliver infrastructure management that's going to give you a breadth of control, both of the delivered content for packages and binaries, as well as configuration management, provisioning, and other important functions that help keep your systems in compliance and secure and healthy. And wherever you want to do that, SUSE Manager is good at it. And it isn't just about managing SUSE Linux. You can manage all your Linux with SUSE Manager, everything from SLES and SLE Micro, the SUSE offered products, to Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and derivatives like Oracle Linux and SUSE Linux Liberty, as well as Debian, Ubuntu, Amazon Linux 2, Rocky and Alma Linux, which are also derivatives. All of these are fully supported clients for SUSE Manager. As you can see on this slide, the SLE micro versions, we support our 5.x with 5.4 coming soon with the 4.3.6 announcement that is part of this year's SUSECon. The upstream for SUSE Manager is Uyuni, and Uyuni is actually a city in Bolivia that is the gateway to the largest salt flats in the world. So that's where the name comes from. But it's a development platform that's actually ahead of where SUSE Manager is. Community supported, it runs on OpenSUSE Leap, and there are monthly releases, at least from a targeted point of view. There are frequent releases. And it's a rolling release, so it's somewhat like a tumbleweed type of distribution. So each version does not get patches, it simply rolls to the next version. So, what's the difference between Uyuni and SUSE Manager? How do you make a choice of which to use? Well, SUSE Manager, in the terms of life cycle, SUSE Manager's life cycle is defined. So we have a 2-year life cycle and a commitment to keep patching that and supplying migration support when the next version comes out. Uyuni has no defined life cycle. So an Uyuni version from 2022 would no longer receive any type of updates or patches or even a guarantee that it could migrate. Uh, in terms of support, SUSE Manager has SUSE priority support. So the highest level of support within SUSE, where you can call anytime and get assistance both electronically via email and escalation up through our engineering team to resolve issues. And Uyuni is self-support. So you're on your own. You can't really make any phone calls about it, and you certainly can't open any support tickets. Um, all the training materials and certifications are available for SUSE Manager, both e-learning and certificate-based training and testing. In fact, at SUSECon this year, we offer testing to you on any of the certificates that we offer at SUSE, including that on SUSE Manager. On Uyuni, it's self-learning only, so there's no training applied. Um, in SUSE Manager, we test and support all our migrations and upgrades, and including from previous versions to the next one. And we state exactly how to do that. We give you mechanisms, and all that is fully supported. So you can actually call and say, okay, this weekend we're going from this version of SUSE Manager to the next one. Can you make sure that there's somebody available to help me in that transition? On Uyuni, there's no guarantee that your version that you're running, which might be several back since they release once a month, is going to successfully migrate to the next one. In fact, it might not. And finally, SUSE Manager is fully tested. All of our maintenance updates get tested for bug fixes, and they go through a pretty rigorous QA process and issue resolution. If in fact you find something post release that is a challenge for you, we engage both our support and engineering resources to resolve that in a manner that aligns with your business needs. On Uyuni, each release might contain some elements that could be broken, and there is no fix that's going to be issued. You just simply have to wait until the next release, or you have to contribute the code yourself. So as you can see, SUSE Manager is for enterprise and fully supported. Uyuni is primarily aimed at developers and self-support. So that's the difference between SUSE Manager and Uyuni.
That's a great explanation. Thanks, Don.
No problem.
So Don just told you about all this great stuff in SUSE Manager, but why should you care? Well, let's go to the next slide. First of all, we know that any disruption to business operations is super expensive, not only in dollars and euros and money, but also in trust to your business. But do you know that customers that experience just 1 hour of downtime, it can cost over $400,000? And the average annual cost of downtime to a business that's tied to cybersecurity attacks is over $33 million. That's a lot of money. This release of SUSE Manager not only continues to provide patches for CVEs, but it also simplifies scanning for SCAP profiles using OpenSCAP. We continue to improve integration with Prometheus and real-time monitoring, and we use Grafana to showcase results in dashboards. And for the SLUZ server, SUSE Manager is integrated with SUSE Live Patching, providing months, if not years, of uninterrupted service. So secondly, let's talk about simplicity. Patching is super time consuming. Your admins hate it. It's manual, it's labor intensive, and it just, in a multi-district world, is just incredibly hard. 60% of data breaches are caused by unpatched systems. It's just a necessary evil. With SUSE Manager, you can automate patching for over 16 Linux distros from a single console, and you can use Salt, or you can optionally use Ansible. So that means if you're already invested in Ansible playbooks, you can simply import those into SUSE Manager. SUSE Manager also has built-in scheduling, which means you can schedule patches on your terms when it's right for your business. And because nothing should go into production without testing, SUSE Manager provides content lifecycle management capabilities. You can apply the patch on a test server. You can move it to development. If you do it the other way, you apply it on a development server. You would
Yeah, you start there. You don't put it in production first. Yeah.
make sure it works, and then you can roll it into production. And finally, scalability. Your business will continue to grow. That's why SUSE Manager manages every version of SLUZ, from Sling Micro using transactional updates to SLUZ on IBM Z. We've introduced the hub architecture so that you can scale out your systems without compromise. In fact, we've got one customer who is going to production with over 90,000 endpoints using hub architecture plus proxy servers to maintain performance. And because you need to report on the compliance, health, and security of your entire infrastructure, we've introduced portfolio-wide reporting that you can export and slice and dice to show your compliance managers.
That's awesome.
So if you look at disruption, and we talked about this, disruption is costly. The annual cost of downtime tied to cybersecurity attacks is again over $30 million. And every cyber attack costs over $4 million. These are just average costs. And when your servers are unavailable, that can cost your business up to $400,000. But also, did you know that 60% of data breaches are caused by unpatched systems? And then you couple that with the fact that 80% of CIOs and CISOs want to delay patching because it interrupts their business. And what do you have? You pretty much have a recipe for disaster. And
You
that's
have a
why
high risk. Yeah, high risk
high
environment.
risk, right? And that's why you need a tool like SUSE Manager. But what exactly is patch management? Patch management not only fixes vulnerabilities in the software, it also helps to mitigate security risks. It's a necessary piece of adhering to compliance standards. So if you're responsible for PCI compliance or HIPAA compliance or SOX compliance, you have to prove that you're compliant. And that's what a tool like SUSE Manager can do. But patch management really goes beyond software bug fixes and also includes feature and functionality updates. And it ensures, like we were saying before, SUSE Manager ensures that patches work in production because we use something called content lifecycle management. So you can test the patch to make sure it's not going to bring your system down before you put it into production.
And the way that SUSE Manager is used worldwide varies greatly from customer to customer because it can align to their patch cycle and their patch management needs, or whatever the function of SUSE Manager becomes to them, just supplying the repositories at a minimum in a way that's controlled and deliverable is something that makes SUSE Manager an invaluable tool.
So what about vulnerability audits and remediation? How does SUSE Manager do this? Well, you can use the integrated calendar to schedule patching on your terms. You can easily set up SCAP profiles and use OpenSCAP to scan your entire infrastructure to ensure you're in compliance.
There's a really good SUSECon session on that too.
There is, and we'll get to that later. You can check for CVE patches and see which ones are critical to your business, and then you can schedule those. And you can also see which ones have live patching attached to them, so you don't have to bring your system down. We talked a little bit about portfolio-wide reports. They'll ensure that your whole entire system is compliant. You can export those reports and share them with your CIO and CISO. And you can perform subscription matching that provides reports that match your currently installed clients to your existing product subscriptions to ensure that you're always in compliance.
Yeah, just another note on the reporting. Since SUSE Manager 4.3 now, the reporting database is separate from the operational database, allowing you to connect any third-party query tools that you use for SQL and generate your own custom reporting in your own ways without affecting current operations. And that database gets updated every night.
That's great. And because SUSE Manager, if SUSE Manager can see a workload, it can manage it. You can manage anywhere with SUSE Manager from one console. If you are running some systems on the cloud, some systems on bare metal, some on premise, some on KVM servers, some on multi cloud, on the edge, we don't care.
Raspberry Pi, System Z.
System Z,
Yeah,
HPC
it's all good.
workloads, we don't care. With a single SUSE Manager server, you can discover and manage your clients everywhere they are. Even if they're coming from the outside world, like AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud, we don't care. SUSE Manager can handle it. So, Don, what's so special about 4.3.6?
Okay, so thanks, Stacy. As you mentioned earlier, this is our release for 2023. SUSE Manager is on an annual cadence, but you'll notice that it's 4.3.6. It's actually a maintenance update type release. But the way that SUSE Manager manages releases, we include feature introduction as a part of those. So if you're already running SUSE Manager 4.3, which released last year, it's a very simple step to get to the latest SUSE Manager 4.3.6. And what in the world have we delivered with that? So, first of all, freedom of choice. Again, a commitment of ours in managing this portfolio broader than just SUSE. Now we have all the RHEL 9 and variants, along with SLES 15 SP5 and SLE Micro 5.4, which are the most current version of SUSE's flagship offerings. And we continue to support all of these other releases that you saw on an earlier slide. So we give you the freedom of choice that you can use any combination of those as you wish. In addition, security without compromise. So we have new automation for program temporary fixes. So if you've been issued a series of PTFs before they actually release the maintenance channels, SUSE Manager 4.3.6 now will be able to handle those in a more programmatic and portfolio wide way for you to actually know and understand and manage that alongside of your regular maintenance updates that you do. We've made updates to how CVEs are handled. And we've issued a very new important feature that people have waited on for some time, the ability to run recurring salt states. There'll be lots more about this in future, but let me summarize it this way. So if you have an individual state that you wish to apply to your systems. So, for example, drift control, like you have a configuration for your web servers you need applied every night. You can specify just that, assign it to a system group or an individual system, and enforce that in whatever time frame you wish based on the scheduler of SUSE Manager. This gives incredible power and flexibility to system administrators that we've not been able to deliver before. It will be a real game changer for you, I'm sure.
That's
And of
so
course,
cool.
yeah, I'm sorry. I get excited about it, and I'm just chomping at the bit to see this in the hands of some of our creative customers. Um, and of course, continuing with monitoring support, new versions of Grafana and Prometheus. integration with additional SCAP profiles, some new offerings there inside the SCAP interface in SUSE Manager that we think you'll really love. And of course, we continue with all the things we've been doing that we explained before about portfolio wide reporting and graphical dashboards with Grafana that we've been delivering in the past. And notice that it's time for you to update. Typically, SUSE Manager will have two concurrent supported versions. Right now, 4.2 is still in support until October of 2023. And 4.3 has actually been extended beyond its original plan uh, to be supported all the way until June of 2025. So if you've been putting off that upgrade to the next version of SUSE Manager, thinking you might be able to double dip and skip a version, 4.3 is what you want to go to. It's well tested with now the sixth maintenance update, and it has support now until June of 2025. So it's very simple to perform the update from 4.2. And we also have had support in the past for updating from SUSE Manager 4.1. So if you're on 4.1 or earlier, you can work with our support persons and services persons to get up to date to SUSE Manager 4.3, 4.3.6. So we've also included now um, recommended bundles, soft bundles of SUSE Manager with services that can give you some additional discounts when adopting SUSE Manager. If this is something new for you, where we can include a package designed for your size environment or your focus, like an SAP type environment, personalized with best practices that you can take away from that engagement. And finally, coming soon, and this is not in 4.3.6 yet, but it will be in an upcoming maintenance release later this summer, where we're giving AWS customers who use pay as you go the ability to have a pay as you go SUSE Manager, where you register your pay as you go system in AWS to this server, and it can automatically go through the AWS cloud billing meter, just like your pay as you go Linux is. And it's much simpler and allows you to be able to then take advantage of any enterprise discounts that you have with AWS. We're targeting AWS as the first landing point for this offering. We've already had SUSE Manager BYOS up there, and now we're pushing it out in a pay-as-you-go format coming later this summer, simplifying billing. So if you're doing everything in the hyperscaler, in particular, this focus is AWS, you will benefit from this offering. So here's the timeline for SUSE Manager. So the launch of SUSE Manager 4.3 was last June, and now 4.3.6 is coming this month, and the support will go all the way to 2025. Notice that if you're running SUSE Manager 4.2, you're going to want to have a plan to migrate to 4.3. Very simple migration, but we can assist in that process. But be thinking about it now. And then we will actually launch SUSE Manager 5 in June of 2024. So look forward to that and some really great things that I might give you a few hints as to what that's going to include.
Excellent. So let's talk a little bit more about those services bundles that Don was talking about. So there are three of them, and they're tailored to a small company, an enterprise company, and a company that's running SAP workloads. Each of these contain the amount of SUSE Manager servers, or the amount of SUSE Manager subscriptions that you need for your business. They include a consulting package, whether it's 1 week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, e-learning, and the enterprise and SAP versions include the bronze tier of our premium support service. Give yourself this gift of customized best practices. And don't forget to ask your account rep for a special discount, because I happen to know that they have some leeway here. What will professional services do for you? First of all, engaging with our professional services team prevents your SUSE Manager subscriptions from becoming shelfware. And our professional services teams will ensure that your SUSE Manager implementation is set up properly and will provide best practices that are tailored to your business. So with this solution, you drastically reduce the time to production, and you can quickly realize all of the benefits that SUSE Manager provides.
And you have the opportunity to learn over the shoulder of some really talented folk.
Really, really smart people. But what else do you get? You also get 2 e-learning subscriptions that provide on-demand access to more than 450 hours of training across the entire SUSE portfolio. So that means you don't only get SUSE Manager training, but if you're interested in Rancher, if you're interested in SUSE Manager for SAP, or SUSE for SAP, or Harvester, or name your SUSE products, you get access to that training. Your administrators can either search for a particular solution, or they can follow a defined learning path that will lead to certification. The choice is really theirs. And for the enterprise and SAP solutions, you get to enjoy the bronze level of our renowned SUSE Premium Support Services. Premium Support Services is really the white glove service of technical support. It means that you get access to a technical professional that you can call when you have any challenges. They will know you, your environment, and your situation. And
And,
because they know you and they know your infrastructure, your operational effectiveness increases exponentially.
yeah, and typically this is not an understatement saying that it takes less time to solve the case because as Stacy said, because they understand your environment already, you don't have to explain it again every time you open a ticket. They're looking out for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what's on the horizon? I mentioned briefly that we're looking at a SUSE Manager 5.0 coming next year. So, I'll give you some hints about what's on the horizon. What we're aiming to do is containerize the SUSE Manager server, align it with ALP, our adaptable Linux platform that SUSE has other sessions about here at SUSECon, if you haven't heard yet, and modernize that code base. So, as you may know, SUSE Manager has been a product since 2010, and we inherited much of the code from our upstream product at the time, Spacewalk. Many changes have taken place and bug fixes and things that have happened since 2010, and we need to be able to remove some of the componentry that may have become obsolete. We do that with deprecation announcements. So you may have heard that we're no longer going to support the traditional Spacewalk client connection as of 5.0. So that's one of the components that has a ton of other implications within the SUSE Manager code base. And by reducing its size, that makes it simpler for us to reduce the technical debt that's behind it and increase our flexibility. And containerizing that SUSE Manager server is a path toward modular scalability. So, as you know, SUSE Manager Server has been a monolithic application. So single server function is difficult to scale individual componentry that may need it without just simply adding more resources to the whole. And we're headed that way in making it a container based solution. And of course, supporting ALP as a client. We want to support from day one, as we've always done with SUSE's Linux offerings, to be able to support that. So the initial support will be with SUSE Alp Micro as it releases, but stay tuned for more Alp news and actually running SUSE Manager potentially in a containerized form on top of SUSE Alp. So coming steps are going to be announced alongside. What we've done is we've already been working on the Uyuni product in containerization. In fact, you'll see some of the sessions at SUSECon relate to that. And we plan to release an alpha version of this for partners and customers to test. And obviously, if you're brave with Uyuni and you keep track of that, keep abreast of that, you will see more in the Uyuni space around that containerized code base, as well as delivering additional features that will make you more aware of as time progresses. So that's what's coming with SUSE Manager 5. It's a whole generation forward. So we took an extra year of not making a major release this year to invest the time into doing it right when it comes to SUSE Manager 5.
That's very cool. I'm excited to get that containerized server out there.
You bet.
Okay, so quickly, we're going to go through some case studies real quick and then share with you some resources and what's a SUSECon. So the first case study is about Pole Employed. Their challenge was a merger that they had, and they really wanted to simplify their server configurations and their patch management. So SUSE Manager we were able to come in there with SUSE Manager. They enhanced their ability to operate their large and heterogeneous server environment, and now they're running very efficiently and highly standardized. The next case study is Office Depot, Office Max. You've heard of them. They're a leading provider of business services. They have over 1,200 stores that they have to manage, and they're using SUSE Manager to really decrease IT management costs and the ability to push out releases to their 1,200 stores.
And 5,000 point of sales registers too. So pretty significant.
Minor detail. Some resources that we invite you to consider and look at. We have the product page, which is product/SUSE Manager. We have a download page where you can actually download SUSE Manager and kind of play with it. You can check out our documentation. And as Don was talking about Uyuni and the community, we invite you to connect with the community. And finally, SUSECon is a wealth of information for SUSE Manager. The sessions in green are the ones that are in Munich and they're in Munich and they are going to be digital. All the other sessions, we invite you to listen to from a digital standpoint.
And those will be available on June 28th.
28th, right? Yes, June 28th. So we have sessions from integrating Ansible to scaling using hub architecture to containerization to Uyuni. Go check it out. And with that, we'd like to thank you for attending. Please reach out to either one of us with questions, and we hope you enjoy SUSECon. Thank you.
Thanks again.